Hello and welcome to another World Cup special episode on 81 All Out. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the 2003 World Cup held jointly by South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. This World Cup gave us so many talking points, from Shane Warne's failed drug test to Andy Flower Olunga's political stance, to the great dramatic South African early exit. You can also make a compelling case for this to be the best bowling World Cup of all time. To discuss all this and more, we have a special crew today joined by Sriram Dayanand from Canada. Hi, Sriram.
Hi, Mahesh. Glad to be here.
Thanks. We also have Cricinfo's treasurer, Karthik Krishnaswamy here.
Hey, guys. Good to be here again.
Thanks, Karthik. And of course, our fellow 81 All Out member, Ashoka Rao as well.
Yeah, man.
Yes, with that, let's get started. So we'll start with talking about our personal memories of watching the World Cup, where we were, what we were doing in life and stuff like that. And from there, we kind of get into the meaty sections of the World Cup at large. Do we start with Sriram? Sriram, come on, take it ahead.
So, yeah, I watched all of it here in Toronto. And that was probably the World Cup I watched too many matches, I think. And a goddamn long World Cup. It seemed like it was never ending. And I used to play in a cricket league here. And almost pretty much every single match I watched with members of the team. So we used to shuttle around house to house every match. So it was a lot of fun because pretty much every match we watched with like 8 to 10 people minimum. So it was a shitload of fun. And yeah, I mean, of course, before we get to all the matches, I mean, Toronto's got a pretty serious cricket, presence. And the build-up was pretty epic because Canada was in the World Cup, as we know. And we used to practice during the winter in an indoor net facility, and the Canadian team used to practice there. And we used to have Larry Gomes, and I forget which one was during 2003. The coach was always a West Indian player. We had Kastlogi and Larry Gomes and as coaches of the Canadian team. So we used to shoot the shit with them, and like the build-up was awesome. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun just hanging out with the cricket team friends, watching it. And we used to get it on TV here. I mean, like it was available everywhere. So you would walk into a bar or something later in the evening and they'd be showing like a replay. So that was the first World Cup where it felt like it was all over the air in Toronto. It was a lot of fun. So I have really, really fond memories of it till the year's epic over.
Was there a buzz around Canada's participation beyond the usual
Zero.
Auspicious cricket circle? Nothing, right?
Absolutely zero. Because it's like nobody, I used to go around, I mean, like, I think even in 2011, I wrote an article about it. I got so sick of it. I used to tell people at work or friends saying, Canada's in it. And they're like, what? Really? We have a team? So same old story. But because of the cricket league, right? I mean, like, and Ashish Bagai and Shumni and all, those guys used to play in the Toronto Cricket League. I mean, that league is like 140 years old and like 7 divisions. And I mean, it's pretty awesome standard. I mean, like even players like Franklin Rose, and when they used to get injured or something in West Indies, they'd come and warm up here. We're playing for a team. So in the cricket circles, it was pretty big and it's pretty sort of organized and it's quite extensive. But in the general public,
Okay, moving on. What about Karthik? What were you doing at that time?
Yeah, it's interesting. We spoke about this in the 96 episode where memories from those childhood World Cups are way more vivid than the later ones. And in a way, it's true. I remember the matches, but the experiences around it, not as much. Though sticking with the Canada team, I only got the highlights of the Davison innings after getting back home, I think, from school. And but then I saw a little bit of his bowling. And I don't know, I really liked his action. And one of the commentators made a comment about, his quick arm action and stuff like that. And that's one of the first times I'd heard about like spin bowling, the need for the quick arm and stuff like that. So I was quite fascinated. I thought I really liked his action. And so I used to play cricket with two of my best friends, like brothers. And so, yeah, we'd play in their sort of driveway, front yard, whatever you want to call it. And for a couple of days, I was trying to bowl off spin with that action. Not that I, bowled any better than I usually do.
Oh man, we have to get this. We have to get this fanboy thing to Davison. I mean, it's like you were playing cricket trying to be Davison. That's awesome.
Briefly,
that
but yes.
to bowling, right?
To bowling,
That
yeah.
to bowling. Yeah. So before influencing Nathan Lyon, he influenced me.
He was a pretty decent bowler. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that guy.
So other than that, I remember watching a lot of the matches, and the final was on the day before my final physics exam, and I'd been flunking physics right through the year. But obviously, I'm not going to like sit and study when the World Cup final is on. But I just remember this dull feeling in my head as the match went on, and especially once it became really clear that India's not going to win this. So I was lying down in an uncomfortable position on my couch, and yeah, just the feeling in my head is really still quite vivid.
What about you, Ashoka?
At least for me, this was kind of the first World Cup when I went in with the idea that, so these many teams are competing. At that point in time, there was no concept of a long World Cup or a short World Cup, because as a college student, I was fucking jobless and I was not even studying. So therefore, there was nothing much in life to other than sit in front of a TV and watch the matches, right? So in that way, this World Cup was fantastic for me. But now, in retrospect, this World Cup does not seem like that great a World Cup anyways, because there were so many blade matches. And one last thing to add was, right before this World Cup, we toured New Zealand. And that was a shit show of a tour, if you guys remember. It was It was a fuck all tour where I think we made 200 3 times, I think. We cracked 200 3 times in 5 tests and 7 ODI. So coming to the World Cup, I was like thinking, how far will we even go? Will this team, after getting battered so badly, this was in December, January, and the World Cup was happening in February. So I was also, that was another intrigue, like how far will we even go?
Interesting.
What about you, Mahesh?
It's similar to Ashoka because probably it's similar life stage. So I was in college. I was in doing BCom in Vaishnav College. It was right in the middle of the best 3 years of my life. And this came right in the sweet spot in the second year of that college. So I had all the time in the world to watch the World Cup or cricket at large because I was watching every match during that time. And now I'm also like supporting Sachin. So I was hoping he does well and I was happy that he had a great tournament. It's a funny thing. I thought I'll bring it up later, but I'll probably say it now. I don't know how many of you guys have seen Super Deluxe here.
No, not yet. No.
Okay. So there's a scene where a bunch of guys, when their parents are out, call other friends and they want to watch a porn film at home. So, which is like a normal thing that a lot of us during school days, early college would have gone through, right? But post this World Cup, once one such incident happened and a bunch of us gathered at a friend's place, and instead of getting a porn movie, this guy got a DVD of the Sachin, it's a Sachin special DVD of his batting during that tournament, 2003 World Cup. Sachin's batting exclusively.
Kind of porn anyway.
Yeah, porn
exactly.
anyways.
And nobody complained. Everybody sat and watched. That was what we were doing for the next 2 hours or something on repeat. So I probably remember every boundary that Sachin hit in that tournament. And not just every boundary Sachin hit. I pretty much remember 80% of the matches very, very well in that tournament because I had nothing else to do in life.
Man, but what a fucking long tournament that was. I mean, people could have made the debut and retired during it. I mean, what was it? 42 matches or something in the regular. I'd lost track. I looked it up. I mean, that's insane. Before the Super Sixes. like 42 matches, and the thing went on for like 7 weeks or something. I mean monstrosity.
But funny you should say that, because I was just reading the Simon Weil piece on the review of that World Cup at Wisden, and he talks about how this was a bloated format, and in order to fix that, almost immediately as this World Cup was going on, they tweaked the format for 2007, where they added more teams and reduced the number of matches, hoping that that will prove to be a fix to this problem, and that ended up creating its own problems.
Oh God!
They had to resort to this stupid format back in 2011, where it was almost like 96 all over again.
Yeah.
So is there I mean, we keep talking about 92, but 92 had the advantage of having only 9 teams. But if you have an ambition of expanding teams, is there an ideal format for Cricket World Cup? You always seem to be complaining.
The Football World Cup. I would say if you have a 16 team or a 20 team or a 24 team tournament, do it the way football does it. Of course, you will have people, you want it both ways. Like, you don't want India or Pakistan to go out. You don't want many big teams to go out. So you want your own fixtures of India, Pakistan. So if you start your tournament planning with that in mind, you're going to have some kind of a fuck all format at the end of it. Football doesn't mind a Brazil going out in the initial formats. Football doesn't mind some team coming in and going till the semifinal, like a Japan coming and going into the semifinals. Those are part of the World Cup. Those are the nice things that happen as part of the World Cup. And there are people who embrace that. ICC starts from a very nervous place where, like 2007, like Ireland, Bangladesh happened instead of an India-Pakistan. So they don't want that ever. So they start tweaking it with that in mind. And therefore you end up with fuck all tournament formats, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have a knockout. I mean, like Super 8s and Super 6s, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, like,
and your points that you carry forward is another big pain in the ass. So you end up with teams having like carrying points. Like it was the thing with the 99 World Cup, right? Like we got buggered because of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe took 2 points and like,
Yeah. Olunga took 3 wickets and over.
It's so hard, right? You look at the results of pick a World Cup 2007 with the Super 8s, right? And you're looking at the matches in the Super 8s, and like you have to, it's like advanced calculus. You have to figure out, I mean, like how did they make it, and like what happened there, and like points forward and all this is bullshit. I mean, like I think it should be pretty much simpler. I mean,
in fact, they tweaked it for this World Cup, right? After the 99 World Cup mess, where both India and Australia
similar.
With 0 points. It's similar, but they added points for a quarter of the points for the non-qualifying teams as well. So you don't come into it with 0, like India and Australia did.
Right. Yeah, 99 was so weird. I know. But yeah, I mean, like this one, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I have some fond memories of it. I mean, like my favorite though was the first match. So the West Indies, South Africa one, right? So we decided to go watch it in this, he was a fast bowler on our team. And he lived somewhere in the boonies, and I live in downtown Toronto. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? So I drive up to this guy's place. And he's got this, he hadn't bought the pay-per-view package. But he had this cracked sort of a box. And this thing had a chip in it. And you would go to this probably some innocuous-looking store in a strip mall. I mean, like probably selling halal meat or something. And they go to the back, and there was this dude selling this cracked chip. And he would plug it in. And every 45 minutes or whatever, they would scramble it, and we would lose the signal. And then he would have to take the chip out, and that halal meat guy would call and give the new code. He would have to burn the code into it and then put the chip back. And I'm sitting there going, I'm missing Lara's knock, you idiot. I mean, like, what are you doing? Because the telecast kept bopping out every 20 minutes or whatever, because they were trying to stop these pirates. And I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? Lara's batting, and like, there's no signal now. I mean, like I spent the whole game yelling at that guy. That's all I remember.
Another memory that I have from that specific match is Kluzner was batting, and I think he hits a shot to square leg where Pedro Collins is fielding. And I've never seen. I've been watching Pedro Collins for a couple of years then, and I have never seen him take a catch. Like I've seen him drop so many. I've never seen him take a catch. So finally, and I'm like this Kluzner fan watching with, a lot of nervousness, and this is a fairly close match. And Pedro Collins actually catches it. And I'm shocked. But what happens is he goes on to cross the boundary after catching.
So he still can't catch.
But at least he didn't drop it. It's stuck into his hands.
That match and Collins and West Indies through that tournament, it's amazing looking through their scorecards that they were just playing with 3 bowlers every match. It was Collins, I think Wasbert, Drakes, was it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the scorecard as you speak. Yeah, now I realize when you say. I didn't realize it then, yeah.
And Mervyn Dillon, yeah.
Yeah, Dillon.
Yeah, just
I'm
3
looking at the
bowlers
scorecard.
and then making do with Hooper and Gale and Wavell Hines and everyone. It's interesting strategy, and
they cracked T20 way before T20 even came into existence.
Ricardo Paul, dude. This was one of the last few great innings of Ricardo Paul, right? After this, I don't think he was
play much after that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they were playing with 3 bowlers throughout the tournament. Was it throughout the tournament? I mean, I'm just really surprised.
Yeah, today I was looking through all the scorecards, and every match, just 3 bowlers. And yeah, it's something you can't do with the current ODI restrictions with 4 guys only on the boundary and stuff.
So true.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the controversies around that World Cup. One, it was a fairly politically charged tournament, given what was happening in Zimbabwe and what had happened in Kenya a year before, with New Zealand refusing to play in Kenya and England refusing to play in Zimbabwe. Pretty much like till the last minute, it was just going on, but eventually they decided not to. There was the Andy Flower and Henry Olunga, political stance as well, which came pretty much in the second match of the tournament.
Right.
Namibia
expecting.
Yeah, pretty early on. Namibia, I think it may have been their first match itself.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, maybe Karthik is a good place to start because you would have had no clue of what's happening in Zimbabwe then, I suppose. I'm sure Sriram would have had some inkling of what is happening in that country. But did you understand what they were doing? Did you understand the significance of what they were trying to do and the kind of risks that they were taking?
At that time, no, not completely. Though it's interesting because probably this was my introduction to that particular political issue, right? Through cricket, I got to know of what was happening in Zimbabwe at the time. So, yeah, it went that way for me rather than the other way around.
So for you, it was just another black armband that they wore, or did you understand the significance of the fact that they may not play for Zimbabwe again?
No, as in I read about it in the papers and stuff, like what it meant and all of that.
Okay.
I didn't watch that game live, so So there was that immediacy wasn't there where I was watching these guys and wondering what was happening. So it was more about reading about it in the paper and finding out later.
Interesting. What about you, Sriram? Did you have a sense of what was happening in the country, and then what was your take on the whole thing? Did you think it was even fair to have the World Cup being hosted in Zimbabwe and Nairobi in that stage?
I mean, especially Zimbabwe, because Mugabe was in the news quite a bit here, and I'm always a bit obsessed with world politics. So I mean, I thought he was a supreme dick. When they gave the games to Zimbabwe, I mean, you get caught up in this, right? I mean, you have nothing against the cricket team. I mean, all of that, but then you're saying, I mean, is this the usual shit which happens? I mean, are you legitimizing that idiot? And so, I mean, the fact that the country was a mess was, I mean, pretty much well known, and the fact that he was completely out of control. So when Olunga and Flower did it, I mean, my first reaction was yeah, good for you guys, right? I mean, it's almost like you're taking a stand. So I mean, I was quite happy that they did it. Because
there's a couple of things. One is a political stance of playing in an authoritarian regime. The other one is the safety of the players, right? One is this moral question of, do you want to play in a country which is not doing right by its people? But more importantly, it's a question where you are posing the dilemma to the visiting teams of putting their security at stake, right? Yeah. Right. Let's forget the political or moral stance on this. Purely a logistical thing, saying how can you put the onus on New Zealand to go and play in a country where they don't feel secure, and the alternative is them forfeiting the match and losing the precious points.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I've always had this fundamental issue with splitting a World Cup between countries. I just don't like it. I mean, like, I'd be totally fine. Give the whole World Cup to Zimbabwe then. I mean, like, even when India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka do it, or whatever, I'm like, screw it. I mean, like, just play it all in Australia, or why not give a whole World Cup to the Kiwis? Or I mean, like, it's just this mental block I have of like splitting a World Cup between countries. I mean, like, just stick it in one.
You believe in the nation state too much, Sriram?
No, zero. Actually, I mean, it's more. I tend to be a bit anarchist in everything I think of, but no, it's. I mean, it causes all these crazy headaches and like, why bother? I mean, like, just play it in a single place.
Come back to the tournament itself. So how did you see the South Africa's tragicomic exit? Do you simply blame it on that mind freeze in the last ball, or I mean, they were pretty poor throughout, right? I mean, they were left with the situation of getting 7 of 2 balls against Muralidharan to be able to qualify. So that itself is not the best situation to find yourself in.
Oh, the drama was brilliant, but I mean, like, the team was okay. I mean, like, it's not like it's a shocker that they didn't make it, but I mean, it's almost poetic, right? I mean, like, you're thinking, I mean, like, surely this can't happen 2 World Cups in a row, and then for it to end that way, and I mean, the only thing you remember from that is that sort of ashen face of Pollock sitting in the pavilion, looking like he had seen a ghost. Yeah, I mean, like, that image is burned right into our brains. But I mean, like, what can you say about it? I mean, in hindsight, I mean, like, we've talked about it, we've laughed about it, and then you go. I mean, to be fair, I mean, at that time, Duckworth Lewis was still kind of a mystery, right? I mean, like, the fact that it got decided by that, and there's no excuse for a cricket team not to get it. But even I remember I was all confused during the match. I mean, I'm like, what's going on? I mean, what, like, we were arguing. I mean, like, do they have enough? I mean, like, is a tie? I mean, like, basically exactly what South Africa.
Tony Greig was doing the commentary then, and he was confused as hell as well. And so
I think Pollock.
He should have.
Yeah, I think Pollock and his team sent some polynomial equation to Boucher to solve and figure out what it means.
Yeah, he could have taken a single of that ball. I mean, like, even given the shot he played, I mean, like, they could have run. And like, it was ridiculous. I mean, like, what are you defending for?
I think the message went out to him, a very cryptic one, saying something like 229 is the number. He dropped a dolly of Stephen Fleming also in that New Zealand match, Boucher.
Yeah, and then Fleming goes on to play a blinder, right? I mean, he had a spectacular innings.
Oh, that was brilliant.
I mean, South Africa didn't win a single match against the big teams, right? This was a tie. Sri Lanka was a tie. They lost to New Zealand. They lost to West Indies in the opening game.
Yeah.
And it was a thumping loss, not even like a close match.
Yeah. Even that Fleming innings, he just kept bowling at his pads or like short and wide. It was a really poor bowling performance.
In fact, Donald talks about it, I think before the tournament or after, but he says there was so much pressure on South Africa hosting the event and, expectation of South Africa going on to win a home World Cup, that the pressure got to them even before the tournament started. There was that iconic South African Airways ad, right? It's our job to bring the world here and your job to send them back.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Of course, you're playing at home, and of course, trauma of the previous one is like it's still. The damage will never go away. So yeah, I can imagine the kind of pressure they would have been under, but still somehow they never seemed to ignite. They seemed flat, but yeah, give it to them to turn it into that spectacular Shakespearean ending. But how could they cock it up that way?
Yeah. And so much so that we only talk about the ending, right? Nobody talks about the fact that they lost to West Indies, they lost to New Zealand, and they against Sri Lanka. It's all about that one mind freeze where, like in today's context, the target will be put up on like a giant screen. There's no confusion. There's no need for anybody to calculate or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but coming back to the some of the matches in the World Cup, some of the key matches, so to say, maybe each of you can start with probably the most exciting matches from your perspective. Maybe Sriram, you want to go ahead?
Well, I can't pick Centurion. That one. Obviously that was brilliant, but there are quite a few though. I was thinking today, I was even talking to Pranav about it. It's like, because he's seen it all after the fact. And I think he said something like, you can't stop grinning when you see Tendu hoik Caddick for a six, right? More than the matches, I have these events which I love during this World Cup. If I had to pick a match, I would pick the Pakistan Centurion match because, it was brilliant in all kinds of ways. But there were so many other moments. And I still remember even in that match against New Zealand, I'll just, full disclosure here, I wanted New Zealand to win this World Cup so bad. I think I was just obsessed with Shane Bond. I just wanted to see Bond bowl all day. And even in that match, those 3 wickets, we lost 3 wickets and we beat them. But he took all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And, I think
he was something
else. And in
else.
fact, Dravid was also dropped on duck or something, if I'm not wrong.
McCullum, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not sure if Bond was a bowler, but he was dropped on duck, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, no, there are all these moments, right? Nehra during the England game, Bond's bowling, and if I had to pick a match, I would pick the Pakistan Centurion match because it was brilliant in all kinds of ways. That one's so overloaded with memory.
You wrote about those 3 shots. Why don't you kind of redo that for us with your voice?
What else can you say about them? The drama, right? And that back foot cover drive of Wasim.
Yeah. I think that was the best shot of the lot. Although the first gets a lot of coverage. And I also love Robin Jackman's commentary around it because he doesn't talk for a while, right? He says, wow, oh. And then
literally,
after a few seconds, he says, beautiful. That's it.
I know. I remember Jackman would go, oh. And then silence. And then he goes, beautiful.
Yeah.
That was a shot of the match. I've seen that probably 800 million times, and it still leaves you speechless. It's spectacular. Of course, the drama of Shoaib and that over. So that match is epic in all kinds of ways. How when it starts that way, it's, and of course the fact that we won and the way we won too, right? Because it almost ended in this super confident Dravid and Yuvraj playing it like they were out for a walk in the park. It's almost from feverish excitement, it went down to what's the big deal? It was amazing the way the flow of the match happened.
First time they were in the same World Cup group, no? India and Pakistan.
92 is, of course, an exception, but yeah. Yeah. But the 92 was the first time they played anyway. So this was 92, 96, 99. This was the 4th time they're playing each other.
4th time,
yeah.
That is true.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but I was very surprised to to know two things. One, as I was digging the World Cup stats recently, one, that this World Cup by far has the most 5-wicket hauls. And quite a wide variety of them. There's Collins Obuya, there's the Canadian guy, what's his name?
Austin Codrington.
Austin Codrington, there's Nehra, there's Andy Bichel, McGrath. I mean, quite a wide variety of bowlers. And the counterpoint...
I think Andy Bichel had this thing. I think Shane Bond had one.
Bichel and Port Elizabeth.
If I remember, Wasim had one. One of the against.
Wasim had one against Namibia or something. Yeah. The counterpoint, which might surprise a lot of you, is the only World Cup without a 5-wicket haul is surprisingly the most revered World Cup of all, 1992.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Today I learned.
Holy shit.
Apart from Centurion, I was like, personally, of the ones I watched, I thought two both involving New Zealand. One I really enjoyed watching, which was Scott Styris smashing Muralidharan around in like a really forgotten gem of an innings, which is his 140 odd against
141,
Yeah.
He kept slog sweeping him for like, he hit some 5-6s or whatever, and in a otherwise disastrous New Zealand performance, I thought that was a great innings. And another was the India-New Zealand game, and right through that World Cup, under lights, the ball did crazy things. Right? Like, whether it's that Nehra game, where before him, like, Srinath and Zahir had set it up they were like 20 odd for 2 in 12 overs when Nehra even came on. But so many matches, like, the ball was doing a lot. And India were chasing 140 odd, and Bond was looking so scary. And India were 3 down. And so I should remember this shot really vividly, because, like, it was a really big front foot stride and a really, he had just come to the crease, I think, Mohammad Kaif, and it takes this long stride out to Bond and like hits him through the covers. And that shot, I don't know, to me at that age or whatever, it just seemed like a really, really, really quality shot. And whatever happened subsequently with his career, or whether he was that good at all, just at that moment and in that innings, he looked like a really good player.
Okay, Ashoka, your pick for the match.
So these guys took away, of course, they took away the India-Pakistan. So let me go with two matches. Like the first, obviously, Brian Charles Lara, 100 against South Africa. So that was a very, very good match. West Indies, South Africa, the first one, which I liked a lot. Yeah, because all favorite things happened, right? Like Lara hit 100, Ricardo Paul hits on quick fire 40, then follow up you have Klusner nearly finishing the match. So it was like a recap of 99, what happened in 99 in many ways. And then another match is West Indies Canada. Not so much because how the match panned out, but because how they were. I still remember those 3 sixes that Lara hits. 26 or 25 runs Lara hits in an over.
Yeah.
Like he just murders that bowler. I forget who the bowler is. He's a left-arm bowler. But 25 runs in an over. I still vividly remember that. And this was the same day when India makes 300 against Namibia, if I'm right. So this was the same day when Sachin and Lara both like whacked the bowling. Of course, you can argue that at one end it was Namibian bowling and another end it was Canadian bowling. But still, you don't get many days when you have Lara and Tendulkar hitting. And one other weird fact that I want to throw in is, like, I remember Wavell Hines playing in a very T20 mode. That never ever happens in life. When that happens, like, you should actually remember it. If you remember, Wavell Hines and Chris Gale started out at the same time. Technically at the same time as openers.
And Hines was a little ahead, actually.
Yeah, and you would always think that Hines was slightly more capable than Gale. Like, foolishly you would make such assumptions in life. And these both batsmen had same kind of batting technique, like block 70 balls and the next 10 balls hit like 7 sixes and have like a strike rate of 60, 70 at the end of the match. So this was always the prototype for Wavell Hines, and this was the prototype for early Gale. Later, Gale evolved. Wavell Hines didn't. But this was one unique match, this Canada match, where I think in 20 or 30, 35 balls, he hit some 70, 60 runs. Wavell Hines. I'm like, what the hell is happening today? That was the day when Sachin and Lara hit. But the prevailing thought that I am sitting here 16 years later is, Macha, Wavell Hines hit like 200 strike rate on that day. And I can't get that out of my mind.
Wavell Hines. Oh, man.
Wavell Hines, the legend.
Another candidate for match of the tournament would probably be England-Australia, right?
Don't pick my choices, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Karthik, you have anyways gone ahead, so go ahead.
Yeah. So with Bichel running through England, and then they were 120 odd for 8 and 130 odd, I don't remember what, and then Bichel coming in again and him and Bevan steering them home. That was some match.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
This was also the time when the whole idea of what's a good pitch in one-day cricket was getting defined towards reasonably flat, true wickets.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of
Ponting got quite upset with the Port Elizabeth pitch.
Yeah. And it was consistently criticized throughout the World Cup, right? Even one of the semi-finals was played there, right? The Australia-Sri Lanka one.
Sri Lanka.
This was, in my view, a great one-day match. Probably the best match of the World Cup in terms of, the overall contest. But there was still a lot of criticism. So politically, I was always taking the stance that this was a great ground to play at, great pitch to play one-day cricket at. So that will be, if I have to, obviously March 1 is out of the equation. So obviously that's the first one. The second favorite match would probably be this. And of course, Australia thumping England is always a reason to celebrate. Yeah, let's kind of go back to the bowling performance, which kind of got cut off. We'll edit it and put it around. Yeah, Karthik, go ahead. What's your favorite bowling performance of the Cup?
Yeah, Asif Karim for sure. Just the way he made Ponting look clueless for those 3-4 balls that he bowled at him, and there's this one point where I was watching it again today, and Lehman has come in, and he's trying to make room and punch through the covers, and it turns back sharply and cramps him. And the commentators are going, once you've done that, you want one to spin a little less. So he's got to slip in place. Maybe he can get an edge to slip. Next ball, he edges to the keeper. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, that performance was just kind of vindicates that with a little bit of help on the pitch, finger spinner can still be relevant if he bowls like a really good length and doesn't give batsmen time to adjust.
Even a 40-year-old back from retirement spinner.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
Ashoka, what's your pick?
Obviously, Nehra ji. Before Nehra ji was Nehra ji, he was just Nehra when he was bowling well. And when he was not bowling well, he was Nehru. So, this has nothing to do with anything political or BJP, but this was just the case. These are the silly names we had back when he was a bowler. So 6 for 23. That was that was like the icing on the cake, right? Like as you guys were discussing, Sachin dismantling Caddick. Right. After that, we make some competent total around 250 something. And Nehra coming and in the lights, just ripping through England. It was very special.
Okay, before Sriram Dayanand picks Shane Bond, I'm going to jump ahead and pick it. And I have a bonus reason to like Bond, apart from the fact that his bowling is so beautiful, was that I think he was pretty much responsible for Steve Waugh being knocked out of the Australian one-day team. So there was a tri-series where they didn't make the finals after a long, long time back home in Australia when New Zealand and who's the other team that went through to the finals?
South Africa.
South Africa.
South Africa,
Yeah. So in that, there was a Shane Bond's, at least the test debut series, and followed by this try series. And he really got Steve O in like a lot of trouble. And subsequently, Steve O was axed from the one-day team. So that's another added reason for me to like Bond. And he had this terrific 6-wicket spell against Australia, right? Although they went on to lose that match. He gets the 6 for 23. I don't know if it's this match or the India match where Mark Nicholas was on commentary and he was having this great run. And he actually hums the James Bond theme. And it sounded so perfect.
I mean, I remember that series in Australia. Was it his debut then? Right?
Test debut, yeah.
Test debut, right?
One day, I'm not sure if you had played it a little before or not. Yeah. So coming back to, we finished with batting. What about, bowling? What about batting performances?
Ashoka, you start.
Well, just for fun, I'll pick Craig Wishart's 171. Because that was the starting of the World Cup, right? Like, so let's begin with that. Props to him. So for no other reason, like this was the first match of the World Cup. Anyways, I was like toggling the channel because the other end, as I said, Brian Lara was going bonkers. So I wouldn't miss that. But for novelty's sake, I would pick this 171 because from the glimpses that I saw, that it was it seemed from all accounts a good, fun, thumpy innings. Because anyways, you guys are going to pick Sachin and other important stuff.
Usually you do that when you are the last one, right? When somebody's already picked Sachin, you do that. You're given the choice first.
Yeah, I have given the choice to the guests. Also, I would like to... So, it is not a batting innings kind of way, but this never gets said in many places. Like, I am a secret Bas Zudirand fan of Netherlands.
You don't have, that is not a secret. It's already come out in our 96.
Like the guy is part of every World Cup that has ever been. I was just Googling. I thought, Bas Zudirand was part of this World Cup.
He was the youngest in 96, right?
Yeah, youngest in 96. And then he has I think he has 100 here as well.
He didn't. He doesn't. World Cup.
Correct. He doesn't have 100.
Last Jan van Nootwijk.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And one I forget his name.
Yeah. He doesn't hit it. Even the 300 match, he doesn't play well. Tim Delida also doesn't play well. So these are the two guys I will never forget. For no reason. I don't remember shit about their batting except Bas Zudirand was like well composed, slight mild Graham Hick kind of batsman. That is the only thing I'll remember from his batting. So these are some of the batting memories which otherwise will not be told. So I'm just listing them as I remember.
I won't pick Sachin just for the sake of not picking it. But I'll go with Ponting. I mean, like, the guy was unbelievable. I mean, it's not just the final. It seemed like he was in some kind of bizarre zone. Every time I looked at him, and the bastard is going to score. He had this look about him. And of course, how can you forget the final? I mean, like, he turned it into like a non-event. I mean, like, it was ridiculous, toying with us like that. And so, I mean, to pick a batsman, I mean, like, I'd probably pick him. I mean, like, even though Sachin's dog will always remain ultra special, of course. But Ponting was something else. I mean, Gilly too. I mean, like, I don't know why I'm picking only Aussies, but they both had fantastic knocks. I mean, even in the final, Gilly was like, I think Zahir, not that.
Yeah, man, that first over killed everything. Yeah, that was the most depressing over of one-day cricket I've seen.
Horrifying. I mean, like,
that and
Zahir looking like a... Yeah, and Zahir, I mean, like, hey, by the way, I found an interesting stat that India averaged 10 wides a game. We were like 40 over the second one. Yeah, I mean, in 2003. And Zahir standing in the middle of the pitch, looking like a pantomime villain. I mean, and looking at Gilly with that, I'm going to intimidate you look. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? I mean, go back to your run-up. And that never-ending over, the depressing beginning. Oh, God. It went downhill after that. But, I mean, you got to give it to Ponting, though. I mean, even when we came out to bat, I mean, I think mentally he had demolished us. I mean, it was brutal. I mean,
yeah, true. So the fun fact is I didn't watch about 90% of that innings because at the end of 20 overs, even when Harbhajan gets those 2 wickets, I was so depressed. I didn't want to watch a ball of it anymore. A bunch of friends went out. The whole city was deserted. I have not seen Chennai being so empty in my life. Everyone was watching cricket. I went to an internet parlor. The fucking guy had specifically borrowed TV for that week. So I've never seen a TV there, but he had a TV installed there. So we had to go out. We went to Al Samal where there's a sandwich shop. At the sandwich shop, which is open every day, the guy was listening to it on radio. It's like you couldn't escape the match anywhere you go. And by the time I came home again, Ponting hit that one-handed six of Nehra. And that's it. I could have been dead that moment. For the next 2 days, I didn't have a life.
Yeah, I mean, it was traumatic, right? I mean, the build-up, everything that happened before the match. I mean, the fact that we're in a final and everything. And it starts off, I mean, it's like letting the air out of a balloon with that goofy over. And then mayhem. I mean, first Gilly going berserk. And then
David Martin playing beautifully as well.
Oh, God. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, we all, Ponting, of course, but Martin made 80 odd, right? And he was fantastic.
In fact, he was cruising along. I mean, I didn't watch it, but subsequently I was watching the highlights. He was the one who kind of propelled the innings initially, and then Ponting went berserk in the second half.
I know. And the look on the team's faces, I mean, you knew, I mean, it was insane to think Tendu would come out and produce some magic. I mean, but we were completely destroyed mentally. I mean, it was, the players looked like they'd been, oh God, it was horrifying to watch. But what a knock. What a bloody knock. To pull it off at that stage, unbelievable.
Yeah, Sriram was mentioning the build-up to that final, and I just remembered this bizarre thing that I read somewhere, either in a newspaper or I don't remember where. It was kind of like a WhatsApp forward before the days of WhatsApp. So it said, India's definitely going to win this final because if you look at all the captains who've won World Cups before them, it went alternating. So Clive Lloyd batted left-handed. Then it was Kapil Dev who batted right-handed. Then it was another left-hander, Border. Then Imran Khan, right-hander. Then Ranatunga, Steve Waugh. So now it's the turn of another left-hander, and obviously Ganguly is going to win.
Okay.
So
we had that momentum theory as well, where both India and Australia were the best teams in the World Cup, but Australia had already defeated India once, and they won every match in the World Cup. So they'll eventually start to lose momentum when it comes to the final point. Yeah. So there was hope as well.
Yeah, but you see,
that match,
it took 2 innings for us to hit 359. We scored exactly 359, 234 plus 125 in the 2 matches.
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to the Eden Gardens test, right? Where India won by 171, and they didn't. In the end, they wouldn't have needed that first innings, kind of.
And I found out today that in the final we made 234, which was exactly the partnership between Martin and Ponting. Yeah, I've always been amused by that. Oh man, it took us 2 matches to score 359. It's exactly 359.
But if you see, we shouldn't be even then I was not kidding myself. By that time, by 2003, we were under it was the 4th or the 5th year of the Australian Dominion. And they were at their peak. They were winning here and there. So it was kind of apparent that they will more or less win the World Cup. It is just that And I got a foreboding feeling when we were facing Kenya in the semifinals. For some reason, I was like, fuck, we are going to smash them, and this is going to be one false hope that used to. I mean, always we'll prepare for the worst, right? Like when we demolished Kenya in that semifinal, I was like, oh God, we are going with this preparation to the finals. And that is a team that has not won. I mean, that has not lost, sorry, the whole tournament. And so I was always skeptical. And the first ball wide four, I lost hope then there only. I was like, fuck, we are fucked. And yeah, even when we got Gilly, and then there was, yeah, Hayden, there was absolutely zero hope. Then hope kindled for like that 4 runs that Sachin hit. That boundary that Sachin hit. Oh yeah, we are going to do this, and then oh yeah,
You
what
didn't
were we
even
doing?
middle it. Come on.
I don't
you
know.
didn't middle it.
By the way, I don't know if you guys remember, there was a brief period when there was a threat of rain, and Ponting wanted to complete the 25 overs to qualify it as a full match so that we don't have a full match the next day. And during that time, when Brad Hogg and Lehman were bowling, Sehwag kind of went berserk. He hits a couple of sixes of Brad Hogg.
Yeah.
And there was there was panic in Ponting's face. You could see that, and that was the only moment where India had the sniff of a chance. The neighbor of mine had bought like 10,000 crackers or whatever to to burst it when India win or whatever. And he realized that that was the only window of opportunity he got to do that. So just after those 2 sixes, we could hear like these firecrackers going outside my house.
Another innings, not of a guy I've really liked that much, but I mean, I think about it, and it was so basically the Australia's first match, and Shane Warne's been suspended for the drug thing. Darren Lehman's still serving his suspension for his racist comment, and so Andrew Simons, he gets a chance, walks in at 3 for 50 odd, and makes a fantastic 100, and that pretty much turns his career around. So before that game, he averaged something like 24 from 50 odd matches, and after that he averaged 45 for the rest of his career. So yeah, and right through the World Cup he played some really crucial knocks against Sri Lanka. So that was a
special knock. I remember. Yeah, I totally agree. The Fleming knock was spectacular too. The one against South Africa, it was.
Oh yeah. He scored some 20 odd boundaries in that, right?
Yeah, it's funny because it was the same match in which Herschel Gibbs went berserk. I mean, I think South Africa batted first, and probably the only knock I remember from a South African in that whole World Cup, other than Boucher's beautiful defensive shot. I think it's the same match that Gibbs went cuckoo, and then Fleming that was quite a knock.
Yeah. So eventually, none of us picked Sachin's 97 or 98 or 97 for that matter against Sri Lanka, which was also a great innings.
I don't think we're allowed to.
Interesting. And talking of that, Sachin 6 of Caddick, do you remember the context before that? So I think a match before that, or probably a few days before that, he gave a press conference where he said Michael Vaughan is the best batsman in the world, if not Sachin.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
And I think we had played the previous match against Namibia, if I'm not wrong, at Pietermaritzburg. And this was a Durban, if I'm not wrong. And then he hits that pull, and then Shastri in the commentary is going mad, and he says, "Oh, that's gone to Pietermaritzburg."
I mean, Caddick's face. I mean, there was some kind of a psychotic trauma going on in his face. I mean, it's it was brilliant. I mean, I have the DVD of that match too, and every time I watch it, I fall off the chair laughing. Caddick's face looks so weird. Since you brought up God, the drama of finding out Warnie wasn't playing, I mean, that was something, for it to start that way.
Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on. They said that this is...
What is not to understand? He said, right, his mother gave him some pills.
Yeah, exactly. Mama's
His
boy
mother Yeah, his mother gave him some pills, and when your mother gives you pills, you take them, and it so turned out that these were drugs that you shouldn't be taking.
But he
So I
said
think
they were for his weight loss. Yeah, for his weight loss. Right. Mama gave him pills for his weight loss.
Yeah, so I kind of believe on in things like this because it makes so much sense.
His
But
mother should have
amazing
taken
that he was still able to come back and have such a great career from there on. I thought that would be it, right? I thought he was pretty closer to the end, especially given the kind of he is. He's not going to sustain the next 1 year without playing cricket, you know.
I know. I mean, like, it probably took for 350 wickets in tests after that, I guess. I mean,
It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, but like to wake up on the first day, the World Cup is starting, and like the headline is Shane Warne banned, and you're like, what? Like a ball hasn't been bowled yet, and of course the comedy of it, right? I mean, like his mother should have taken the pizza away, not the like.
It's always fun. It's always fun listening to Warne talking about that period of his life now, like when he's on commentary and stuff. And for some reason, if 2003-4 comes up, and I remember once some co-commentator asking him, "So Warnie, why weren't you playing this game?" And he's like, I was on an enforced sabbatical."
All right, let's round it off with how do we look back at the World Cup in retrospect? And I mean, for instance, I remember enjoying this World Cup immensely. I don't know. I mean, at that time, I didn't find it like a bloated World Cup, and I absolutely enjoyed the fact that Zimbabwe and Kenya made it to the Super Six, and Kenya, in fact, had a run all the way to the semifinals. And also the fact that it was a great bowling World Cup, because that was also the time when I was a fast bowler and bowling, like, you know, playing reasonably competitive cricket. So I enjoyed the fact that that was a great platform for World Cup. I mean, for the bowlers. One of the things that I find a little weird, but usually every World Cup, especially because we just did 92 and 96 recently, and there was something innovative about both the World Cups. I was wondering, apart from this New Zealand's decision to follow the relay throws, there wasn't really anything innovative by any of the teams, right? Or was it? Or did I miss something?
West Indies, 3 bowlers.
But is that innovation or just dearth of bowlers or dearth of whatever? I mean, is it just stupid strategy, or do you give them credit for it?
Yeah, it's some. I mean, they tried it and they stuck with it, and they didn't have an awful World Cup. So they lost a couple of close games. One to Sri Lanka, I think, with Sarwan coming in after retiring hurt and then smashing it in the end.
Oh yeah, I remember that match. Yeah, that was a good match.
Yeah, so they stuck with it, and it was an interesting tactic for its time with the rules of one-day cricket back then. Why not? I think they basically said we don't really have any good spinners, so let's just play another batsman.
Yeah. So, but in terms of revisionism, for instance, I mean, not too much. I mean, not as much as the '96 World Cup, but people do complain a lot about the fact that it was a reasonably bloated World Cup, and that's a little problematic because cricket wants to make money from it. And this was the most commercial World Cup we've had, right? We had those ambush marketing nonsense that was going on with the Indian cricket team, where you couldn't advertise with the non-World Cup sponsors for like some period before the event. In fact, India's prize money was withheld till that contract issue was resolved and stuff like that. So you always have this problem with cricket being a reasonably small sport, and this is probably cricket's first foray into full-scale commercialization. You can't keep it too small to make it efficient. Then it'll become those Champions Trophy or Mini World Cup. But if you make it big, you need to have a format where you keep the big teams lasting long enough for them to make money.
For me, the big thing from this World Cup and 2007 was it going to South Africa and then West Indies, and it looked like it was going to like spread around that way, but then since then they've come back to the big three, and it looks like big three is going to keep happening more and more. And yeah, I'd like it to keep going back to other countries more often. Yeah, otherwise I don't know, I immensely enjoyed watching it, and at the time didn't have any complaints about its length or whatever. Though right now as a cricket journalist, having to like deal with all the work that comes with it, I pray for really short tournaments without too much, not very eventful ones either.
To add to what you guys were saying, I still believe, I mean, I want to go back to what I was saying earlier as well. Like, if you want something to be called a World Cup, I mean, you have to be slightly more inclusive in your approach. Like, you by now have given ODI status to like at least a 20-25 set of countries, right? I may be wrong, but I don't know the numbers. But there are a bunch of associates who play cricket at a reasonably good level. So, at which point in time, if you want to promote the game and you want games to reach maximum number of countries, why don't you have a 32 country World Cup with four countries in each pool, 8 pools of which top 2 teams go to the quarterfinals, then semifinals. Round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and then final. Like that would be a great approach. Like instead of being afraid of, oh, the big teams might lose out, but it also gives you new audiences like Kenya or Canada or Namibia or Netherlands or Scotland or Ireland. You find if their team qualifies, you find a newer set of audience, right? You find a newer set that country. The youngsters in that country or people who follow that sport in that country find a larger voice. I mean, you have to weigh both the things and then come to a conclusion that a conclusion that is that will be beneficial for the game, not just be like, okay, I'll have qualifiers for the associates and I'll handpick 2 of them. And then I'll have only a 10-country World Cup or a 8-country World Cup or a 6-country World Cup. Might as well get on. I mean, say it as it is and say that, hey, there is this big 3. The rest of the countries, can you just have a tournament and we'll select one and have semifinals and finals and get it over with?
Don't give ideas that we might get that next. All right, with that, we come to the end of a wonderful discussion on the 2003 World Cup. I had a lot of fun. I hope the other crew members had. Thanks a lot, Sriram, for joining us.
Thank you. Oh, no, it was a pleasure being here.
And thanks a lot again, Karthik, for joining us after the 96 one as well. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thanks, man. It was great looking back at my childhood again.
Excellent. Yes, you can listen to our podcasts on all the podcasting platforms and as well as on our website, 81allout.com. Keep listening. There are more World Cup special episodes coming up. Thanks a lot for listening. Bye-bye.
India win. He'll come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for